I'm ever so grateful to live in a country where I can consider myself rich, even though I don't have a penny to my name. And being an American, something that many of us take for granted that live here. And I never for a moment wake up and think I deserve everything I have or that I'm somehow superior to anyone else in the world. And that seems to be an attitude a lot of people carry that, well, America is the greatest nation on earth, and, well, the whites, this, or the blacks that. And it becomes an issue of race, and people have always wanted to look at other races as, let's say, just less human, because by dehumanizing other cultures, it allows us to live in our perpetual state of ignorant bliss. And during the 50s and 60s, the American way of life was the happiest they say that it's ever been, or at least during the 50s. As far as the American people knew, the war was over and everything was dandy. White picket fences and swimming pools all around. But today we see the rest of the world for what it really is. We don't any longer, we're no longer able to live in the illusion that our parents lived in. And I'm just here to express my gratitude for having the things that I have. It's like I heard someone say, if you have a hot shower, you're rich. Okay? A lot of the world, we can't compare ourselves to the 1% or those who are super rich. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about having the means to wake up, eat, live your life, have a job, or at least a place to stay even. Meanwhile, there are millions of people as refugees, good families looking for careers and food. And, it's just something we have to be aware of, I took my son the other day, yesterday, my youngest son, he's 3 years old, and he had to have surgery. And it was, I feel empathy, I feel pain when other people feel pain, even when they're not feeling pain, especially when it's a family member. And I was thinking of how grateful I was that I could take him in for a quick 1 hour surgery and have something fixed that may have caused him problems for his entire life. Something very simple, but modern medicine has allowed us to get to the point where we can just make a small incision, do the work that needs to be done. And in America, that's something that we have, it's just a given for most people. Even those with no health care, if you're laying on the street dying, you will get treatment in a hospital, most likely. There are conditions and situations where this has, not worked. But the point is, overall, if you need health care, you can find a way to get it in this country. This is, there has been a lot of talk lately about socialized health care and how it's destroying the economy, and I say, phooey, I'm not going to get into the debate about how much health care costs or whether or not we should be providing it for our people. But let's just say if you're a person who doesn't agree that we should have socialized healthcare and that believes that each person should have to pay for their own healthcare, I can totally understand that point of view. However, consider the children. Consider the children born to people who can't afford to take care of them, or the children that are born to people who live hand to mouth and check to check. People like myself who worked for myself for many years as a carpenter, who never quite made enough to get my own insurance because I was a carpenter and it would be higher insurance, but I made too much to qualify for any type of health care. It's a very difficult situation for people who need it. Now, most people who are sick won't abuse their health care. I know there are a few people who do, and this is the scapegoat that people use for saying, people will just go to the doctor and use it when they don't need it, and it'll cost us all money. People don't like going to the doctor. But the one thing to remember is that preventative maintenance on the body is just like an automobile. If we don't take care of our cars, it's going to cost us twice as much in the end when it seizes up and you have to replace the whole engine instead of just one component. The same way with the body. When we have healthy people, then they're happy people, and they're more productive people. Sick days in America cost us billions of dollars. I think it was perhaps trillions of dollars every year. I don't even remember the amount. But these are preventable sick days due to just normal illnesses that could be taken care of. When I had my sciatic pain 5 years ago, I couldn't go to the doctor because I couldn't afford it, and there was nothing he could do. Even if I went, I'd pay $200 so he could tell me, well, I can't give you any prescription medications because people abuse them, so even though you're in pain, you'll have to suffer. and here, I'll take your money. This is just the world we live in. However, this makes me only want to go to the doctor if I really need it. And this is what I think how most people feel. So, but anyway, living in America gives us that ability to have health care. And when people talk about starving folks in America or families that are hungry, I've been on probation a couple times, and I've worked my share of community service. I've done the soup kitchen for a long time, and I've seen a lot of people down there who are very stubborn, people who claim to be hungry, the people who I see standing on the corner saying, my family's hungry and I need money. And they'd be standing out in front of the soup kitchen and refuse to go in because their pride was so great. Or they wouldn't go to the food bank to get the free food that's available. Now, I'm not saying that there are situations where people can't attain food, but I'm saying in America, if you really need food, you can obtain it. There are very few situations where a person can't eat. Now, living in the ghetto, sure, there are no good grocery stores. All they put in is fast food joints. It's almost set up to make people fail. And I understand that. So it does depend on where you live. But if you're a person who lives in a city, there's no need to go hungry. It's a pride factor for a lot of folks. Let me tell you this. Homeless people in America have it better than a lot of hardworking families, citizens who actually have a home and have food and have resources and all these things, who still have less than someone here. So I guess all I'm saying is if you live in America, or if you live in any progressive, if you want to call it that, rich nation, rather than beating it down because it's preventing others from obtaining, or rather than just saying, oh, well, my country's the best, screw the rest of them, utilize the resources that you're given in the country that you have to try to better yourself, therefore better your surroundings and the people around you. And this is what a lot of folks do. They give. They give their time, they give their money, they give their resources. There are a lot of good people out there. And there are a lot of good Americans out there. And I know a lot of the world likes to think that America is just a bunch of snobby, stuck-up, punks. And it's just not true. It's like the whole is not represented by the part. It's kind of like when I made a comment the other day about South Carolina and something about voting because they were supporting some racist Trump comment. And I said, oh, big surprise, that's South Carolina for you. Somebody said, hey, that's not fair. That doesn't represent all of us in South Carolina. And I said, you're absolutely right. Whenever I generalize, I get called out on it. So I'm very cautious to try not to do that. And I'm just putting out the word, or the hope that people will take that into their hearts and realize that we can't generalize any one group of people. It's been very difficult to see what's happening in the political arena with people like Trump, who is feeding off of people's emotions. He's claiming that he's not going to allow Muslims into this country. I mean, and I've heard people agreeing with this, like, well, Islam is, a bad religion. But who in America determines what religion is allowed to enter? I say many Christians did the same thing with the Crusades, and they are doing it today. What do? It's a free country, right? Or is it? And that's kind of the point. I don't really know what else to say about that part of it. It's just use your head. Use your head. We can better this place. We can better this country. We can fix America. And I know that may sound silly to some people. And people are saying, oh, God, you've got rose-colored glasses. You really think we can pull it out? I watched the State of the Union address the other night, and I was moved by it. Obama is a great speaker, but he's also honest. And I know a lot of people think he's just a liar, Illuminati, conspiracy, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. I look at a person, and all I can go by is whether they seem to have the proper demeanor of a human, and he does. And all the people in the room who were responding to it also had the proper demeanors of humans. It's easy for us to just sensationalize it, just say, well, they're either reptilians or they're, they all hate us, they're all out to get us, they're all Illuminati. The fact is, most of these are just people, and they really do want to see changes. They just don't know which route to go. The conservatives are arguing, the liberals are arguing, both of them have great views and both of them have horrible views, but they're fighting against each other. You know, I watched both of the initial debates, you know, the Republican and the Democrat, and then I watched the GOP debate the other night, so 2 nights ago, and I flipped through it, and the entire time all they did was the typical GOP nonsense. They talked about all the bad stuff Obama had did, how bad Obama was, and how, you know, we should be safer after 9/11, and then they talk about ISIS and how all the Democrats care about is you know, global warming, and all this is just nonsense. The thing is to realize is that, let's say, global warming, climate change, or the economy, these are long-term things that we work towards, whereas things like ISIS, ISIL, whatever, these are long-term in the sense of terrorism, but short-term in the sense of the actual groups themselves. In other words, they can be dealt with. They're not going to be a long-term problem as that particular group. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm not saying that it's not a threat. You know, I used to, you know, really dismiss the military and say, you know, they're out there doing crap that I don't approve of, you know, and they should be telling us what's going on. We want full disclosure. Yet at the same time, I realized that there really are some bad people out there, and we do have some good people working for our country that are doing it to help out, not to just kill others or to take people's lives. You know, it's easy for us to generalize the military, generalize politicians, and generalize each other, whether it be racial, sexual. Anyway, I'm being summoned, so I gotta go, but I think I got my point across, and I wish you all the best of days. Take care.